About 75% of Manitoba's imports came from the U.S. as of 2025, or come from, rather. That's according to the Bureau of Statistics. Overall, Canadian domestic exports to the States totaled $547 billion in 2024. For our province, we exported $14.5 billion worth of goods to the States. That represents, in case you're curious, 70% of total domestic exports. And that comes from a provincial website with data on it for where we live. Now, we're talking about all these stats because Prime Minister Mark Carney is headed south today. He's in Mexico City. He will meet with Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, to talk trade and investment. Both countries have faced tariffs and threats of tariffs from the United States and the President Donald Trump since his re-election. Carney's trip also comes as the U.S. begins the formal process, you might know, of reviewing the Canada-U.S Mexico Agreement, or, as I said, CUSMA, as it's known. Now, this is the trade deal that replaced NAFTA in 2020. And to talk more about today's talks with the Prime Minister, Laura McDonald's with us. She's a professor of political science at Carleton University. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So how would you describe the current state of Canada's relationship with Mexico, first of all?
Well, I think it's been a little bit rocky over the last year or so. Canada decided to reimpose a visa requirement on Mexicans to come to Canada, which was not popular in Mexico. The Canadian ambassador said some critical public remarks about the judicial reform process that Mexico had decided to adopt, which Canadian companies weren't very happy about, and that really got up the backs of the Mexican government, which really resists fundamentally foreign intervention in Mexican domestic politics. And then there were some very colorful comments made by people like Doug Ford and Danielle Smith about how they didn't think that Canada should go ahead with a deal with Mexico and that we should basically throw Mexico under the bus when approaching the relationship with the United States, so that we should just have a bilateral deal with the United States and get rid of Mexico. And this was widely reported in Mexico, and I would say deeply offensive to Mexicans who expected a friendlier, more supportive response to Mexico from Canada than from the United States. So I think there's some work to be done to kind of repair this relationship and move forward.
If that's one of Mark Carney's goals, to repair and move forward, what is actually expected to be on the table with discussion as he meets with Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico's president?
So there will be issues related to trade diversification. Both countries are trying to diversify their markets away from the U.S. market, on which we both become excessively reliant. So looking for new trade partners, where better to look than Mexico, which we do have a trade deal with, and it is not that far away compared to far-flung countries like China or Japan. So they're going to be looking for specific economic sectors and areas of investment where we can develop that mutual relationship, and then thinking about how to jointly tackle the elephant in the room, the elephant between us, which is the Trump administration in the United States, and what kind of joint strategies can we develop to disarm a little bit the Trump offensive.
This week, obviously, the U.S. announced the first step in renegotiating, speaking of the states, the CUSMA agreement, or what they call the USMCA. What does the timing of the review mean for Carney's discussions with the Mexican president?
Yes, the review or renegotiation, as Trump likes to talk about it, is certainly going to be top of mind for both leaders. Consultations are occurring in Mexico as well, with stakeholders in Mexico about what they'd like to see, and Canada's engaged in consultations as well. So this is really top of mind. And I think it's important for Canada and Mexico to really decide to work together and not to go around each other's back to get a better deal from the United States. Time has shown we are not going to get a better deal on our own. Other countries are doing these one-on-one deals, which don't amount to very much if you actually look at them. and that do involve U.S. tariffs. So both Canada and Mexico agree that at least the governments believe that we're better off with the existing agreement, not reopening a lot of chapters to fundamental renegotiation, maybe tweaking some details. That's what they're going to try to achieve, but I'm not sure that's very realistic in the face of Trump's desire to rip up everything and rewrite everything. So they're going to have to develop sort of a plan B if Trump sort of digs in his heels. And so I imagine that they're going to go specifically over some of the contents of the agreement and try to find areas where they could compromise, or perhaps stake out some new areas that Canada and Mexico would like to see in this agreement, which certainly could be improved.
Thank you very much, Laura, for teeing up what we might be hearing today. Appreciate it.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.
It is Laura McDonald with us live on CBC. She's a professor of political science at Carleton University. We reached her in Ottawa. We're going to hear more from the Prime Minister on his trip to Mexico coming up on World Report.